In an earlier video, we covered the basics of an open source software, and I tried to explain what GitHub is and how it works. We also have our own cloned version of Bitcoin design guideline on our computer. If you missed that video, you might want to watch it first, because in this video what we will be doing is simply contributing to Bitcoin design guide. Before we begin with actual contribution, I want to give you one piece of advice. It is always a good idea, if you don't know what you want to contribute to go to the list of issues here and see what people are discussing, and there are in some cases also issues labeled as good first issues. So if you're a first-time contributor, maybe there are some typos, maybe something needs to be reviewed, reformatted. Simple text. It does not always need to be design, mock-ups or code or whatever. So you can contribute by looking through the issues and finding a problem which you can tackle. However, another way to tackle an issue is simply browsing the website, and perhaps you see a typo or you see a paragraph that should be rewritten in your opinion that may not be clear enough. So let's say, for example, that we want to change the headline here. We are helping make Bitcoin more intuitive and accessible. How would we do that? So let's begin. Go back to your GitHub desktop application and make sure that you are in a forked repository that we cloned on our computer earlier. First of all, we need to create a new branch. And this may seem like a little bit scary, but go back here and click New Branch. Why do we want to have another branch of our cloned code? Well, a good practice when contributing to open source is to always have this master, or it's now renamed to main, but always have this branch unattached, because then we can easily later on sync changes from the Bitcoin design guideline if in the future we want to contribute more. So it is easier to sync in those changes and always be in sync. And then we will be creating another copy based on this branch that we have. This may seem confusing, but once it becomes part of your workflow, you'll understand why I'm telling you this. But for now, what you need to understand is that in order to contribute to a specific problem, it is always a good practice to create a new branch. So create a new branch. You can use any name that you want. It is good practice to use something that you will easily remember. In my case, I'll call it home title change, for example. And you'll see that it will be based on my default branch. Click Create Branch. And for now, there is really no way to publish it. We don't want to push it on GitHub website yet. So we have our own home title change. You can browse these files now by clicking Show in Explorer. And now all you need to do is find this page that you want to edit. So let's say that we want to change intuitive and accessible into awesome. So I want to change this. I go back to Sublime, right click, find in folder, intuitive and accessible. You can go here, find, and you will see where it is located, into index.md. In Sublime in particular, if you just double click on it, you will immediately open the page which you want to edit. And here you can see the portion of the headline that we want to change. So we are helping make Bitcoin more intuitive and accessible. And I will just add amazing and cool bro. And then once you apply your change, you just need to save it. One more thing, the format used in the design guideline website here is called Markdown or .md. You can read about Markdown formatting. There are plenty of resources online because there is because Markdown has some specific rules on how you want to format text and write. For example, this is how you format a link in Markdown. These are some of the things that you may want to read about before you try to format text in Markdown. It is not as hard as it sounds. This is not even code, this is simple text. Anyway, I saved my change, but let's say I want to add something more. Let's say the Bitcoin design guide rocks. Once you're done with all the changes, simply save them. And if you head back to your GitHub, you will be greeted with this. Git is actually a version control system, and What this does actually is just showcases what changes you applied to this document, index.md. In the bottom left corner, it is a very good practice that you add a context on the change that you made. So what you can type in here is, for example, update title. You can add some additional descriptions here. And once you're done with that, click commit. Commit is basically a way of you saying, hey, I changed this. I want this to be part of my cloned version of the website right now. So if you want to see what we did here, you can always head back. If you want to apply more changes, you can always show in folder or use open in Sublime and then apply your own changes. But let's say that you want to see now index.md. When you open it, you'll now see that our own copy now doesn't have our changes here, so we apply them. In our case, so you can close this for now. I just wanted to show you that our own copy now has a modified version of the software. So now that you apply the change, how do we communicate it to people? Well, before we do that, it is always a good idea that once you apply the change, you test it out locally, or you test it on your own copy of the website. Because if you go to bitcoin.design, of course, your change is not applied at all there. So what we should do is create our version of the bitcoin.design on computer and preview it locally so that we can see if it matches our expectation of how it looks. In the next video, I will teach you how to build the website locally and test our own changes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.